Well, hello again, guys, from here inside St James's Park. And before we reflect on tonight, and what a night it was, a quick insert with the breaking news. We've just watched it downstairs in the press room there, the Carabao Cup quarter-final draw, Newcastle at home to Brentford. And I think the nature of that draw adds to the significance of the victory here tonight. Now, Eddie Howe has just walked down there below us. He looked happy. We didn't get much of a reaction out of him with regards to the cup draw. I think he was more relieved with what played out here tonight. Before the game, I had called it potentially season-defining, so significant for the direction in which the campaign went from here. To that end, Newcastle got the performance they needed, but they also, crucially, got the result they needed. And what I mean by the cup draw as well, just adding to it that cherry on the cake, if you like. If you come out of here and you then know that the week before Christmas, Newcastle are going to be going away to Arsenal, I think it dampens the spirits a little bit. But the fact they've got a very winnable tie back here, replacing that Carabao Cup semi-final, I do just think that adds to the gravitas of what always felt like a huge night for Newcastle. To lose here, given that they've fallen to 12th in the table, given that the top 5, top 6 finish even perhaps might just be beyond them this season, to stay in this cup competition was huge for supporters, for the players, for the narrative around it. We've got this thing down in London in Fleet Street, it's called the crisis carousel, and while Newcastle aren't on it there, if there'd been a defeat tonight followed by a defeat on Sunday, I might just have been getting those calls from London asking what the hell is going on and what direction is this club, this team and the manager going in this season. But as it is here tonight, it was everything they needed, and from the off it was apparent as well that it would be that sort of night. Now, I said in my pre-match video that I was convinced Newcastle would win here. I've seen this before. I've been around the club long enough to know that when there's that external noise, and there has been the last few days, there's been a hell of a lot of analysis. There was the booing of the Tonali substitution at the weekend and all the fallout from that, everything with Alexander Isak last week, even coming out of the summer and all of the noise there. But I know, and you guys know too, that then is converted to a hell of a racket in the stands on a night when the players, when the manager, when the team, when the club needs the supporters. And I was convinced that that was how it would play out. And it did. I'll tell you a little story. I bumped into Jason Tyndall in the coffee shop at tea time, and I told him exactly that. And he said too that he had a good feel about it. And within 30 seconds, never has a throw-in conceded been met with such gusto and felt so significant as what Anthony Gordon did over in the far corner there. It was magnificent. It was reminiscent of what Gordon did against PSG, I think, inside a minute that night as well. Did it again 3 minutes later, both times on Mark Cucurella, and it almost involuntarily took guys in the East Stand out of their seat. And that set the tone, it really did. And from that moment on, Newcastle were on the front foot. They were aggressive. The manner in which they pressed leading to the first goal, we haven't seen that so far this season. And to go back to before kick-off, now, I had the team sheet in my hand and I looked at it, and I think I used the word experimental in the voice note on my WhatsApp channel. And by that I meant I looked at Lloyd Kelly, left centre-back, first time for Newcastle. Joe Linton moved back to the left wing, first time this season. Tonali in a central midfield role, first time he's been used there, certainly this season, perhaps in his entire time at the club. Anthony Gordon shifted out to the right wing where we know he doesn't necessarily want to be. So I looked at the team sheet and I thought, yes, it's advantage Newcastle because Chelsea have made 11 changes, and crucially, there was no Cole Palmer, the weekend torment. I think that was a collective sigh of relief. But no, to look at the Newcastle team, I was surprised. I didn't necessarily think it was wrong, but I thought Eddie would have named a different team. I thought he would have picked the team that he would have chosen had this been a Premier League fixture here tonight, and he didn't. But nonetheless, the changes he made, they all worked. We'll go into the merit stars, and I'm not going to fudge this. I'm not going to give 3 1 stars, 2 2 stars and 2 3 stars, because there were so many candidates here, and I will narrow it down to a 1 2 3, and I'll pick the 3 who I thought were the best. But that will spark a hell of a lot of debate, I believe, because again, there were so many candidates. And how long is it since we've had that where we are walking away and there's the debate over, well, no, I thought he was the best player. I thought he was the best player. Didn't he do well? Don't forget about him. And that's what we've had just downstairs in the press room there. There was 5, 6, 7 names all thrown forward, and all with some merit. And reflected on the week and where this leaves Newcastle, because after the game on Sunday, we were critical about the makeup of the midfield, about individual performances within that. Well, I think Eddie would have taken this as an outcome to lose to Chelsea A on Sunday, if you like, and to come back here and beat Chelsea B in the Cup. I always said out of the 3 fixtures this week, this was the most important in terms of what it would do for shaping that season going forward. Because the prospect of going out of this competition on the back of sliding to 12th in the table, 5 without a win, I really think it would have made for a really uncomfortable few days for the manager, for the players, for everything around the club. That noise, that feeling would have been pretty negative. Now, how did they achieve that here tonight? Let's talk through the mechanics of the game. As I said, there was that feeling that there was a big night waiting here at St James's, and 2 of my little boys on the Gallagher end, then I walked round beforehand to see them, and even then you could just feel that electricity that awaited, that realisation that a big performance wasn't just needed from those on the pitch, but those in the stands as well. And I thought it was an example of that power of St James's when everything comes together. But ultimately, you only get that if those on the pitch give that inspiration. And as I said earlier, Gordon set the wheels in motion with the sliding challenge to concede a throw-in after 30 seconds. And it was no surprise when the first goal came from that collective press, that energy and that aggression, that if we're honest, the midfield, and this has been part of the criticism, that the midfield has lacked this season. To put Joe Willock back in there, and Eddie spoke about this afterwards, that he does give the midfield a dynamism in something they miss. Well, it was okay saying, bring Joe Willock back in previously, but we saw that down at Fulham. He wasn't ready, and I've had concerns, and I say this as a concern because he's a player I think a hell of a lot of and makes such a difference to the team when he is fit and on song. But my reservation was that player, perhaps on the back of 2 bad injuries, that might just have faded. It didn't look like that there tonight, and that was so encouraging amongst all the performances. We'll get to those merit stars, and a little clue, Joe Willock doesn't feature, so I'll give him his praise now, but having him in that midfield to drag Newcastle out of shape and to drag the opposition out of shape, he just mixes things up. Newcastle had started to look pretty stale and pretty stiff, and they were being played around and through, and it was all very predictable on Sunday and some games even before that, even though the performances were better. I still think the midfield was an issue. Well, there tonight, and the makeup of it, to have Longstaff's energy, and I know he will continue to be criticised. I thought he was good tonight, but to have that up and down, to have Willock up and down, and to have Tonali as the conductor, the orchestrator, sat there at the middle of it, that is the best the midfield for me has played all season, and stretching back into periods of last year as well. And no surprise, like I say, when that first goal comes from the energy and the aggression to press inside Chelsea's penalty area. It's Joe Linton, first of all, with what felt like a foul, but that's okay. Newcastle got 3 or 4 bookings inside the first half, I think it was. That nastiness was back. Nick Pope's booking in the second half when he kicks the ball away. Bravo, that's what another criticism, what they've missed, those streetwise tactics that won so much applause and praise during that 22-23 campaign. Well, Joe Linton, that tonight for the first goal, aggressive, a borderline free kick. They get lucky, it rolls. Sandro Tonali then follows up. He's enthused by that, gets his foot in ahead of Enzo, and it's Tonali. It turns out to be Tonali's first assist for the club, actually, would you believe? It bounces to Alexander Isak, but unlike in recent weeks when those chances with an XG of plus 0.5, when those haven't gone Newcastle's way and they've somehow contrived to miss them, Isak puts this one away. That's for 1-0. Yes, they've ridden the luck to that point. Chelsea have missed a couple of good chances. Kane and Dewsbury Hall inside the first few minutes. And I think there was another one as well when Tonali makes an absolutely huge block. Tonali's getting a lot of mentions here tonight, as he always does in these videos. This time, everyone is resoundingly positive. So that's 1-0. 3 minutes later, it's 2-0. And it's a quick free kick, would you believe? The criticism for set pieces this season, I don't know if it'll actually count as a set piece goal, but it's Lewis Hall, quick thinking, down the wing to Tonali, his cross. It's then flicked on by Joe Willock. Again, Joe Willock arriving there. What we haven't seen from Newcastle's midfield is those bodies arriving in the box. Willock flicks it on. It looks like his goal, but it's not. It's Axel Disasi. Gets himself in such a muddle there in the Leazer's end goal. Now, would you believe Axel Disasi was one of disaster, I nearly said there, and that would have been apt. Axel Disasi was one of the names put forward to Eddie Howe late in the summer there when the Mark Guy deal was running into trouble, and Eddie said no, the others at the club thought he might be beneficial to Newcastle this season, valuable. Well, yeah, they were right, he was, albeit through an own goal for Chelsea. That's 2-0, and from that point on, And again, you know, I always say to you, I'm writing my match report. Was there one or two little nervy moments? Well, there was, but then I looked at the likes of Lloyd Kelly, his intervention, that confidence and assurity of Tonali at the heart of midfield, and Nick Pope making saves as well. Yes, Chelsea's boss has just, Enzo Maresca has just come in with us there and thought that his side controlled the game second half. Okay, they did. Yeah, they did, and had some good chances first half, but the boot's on the other foot now because Newcastle have had those performances of late, you know, Brighton at home here, the Everton game away, and they haven't got the rewards. But for that 10-minute spell when Newcastle were on top, and crucially, they took the chances, they were clinical, and they got the reward for that. And on the whole, I would disagree with the Chelsea boss. I thought Newcastle were the deserved winners on the night. Has this victory just pointed the way forward for what Eddie Howe needs to do to maintain the feel-good from tonight, to build on that, to revive a season that has been running aground of late. Now, and by that, I mean, Joe Linton on the left in Sunday's video, I almost arrived at the conclusion that Joe Linton perhaps is no longer a left-sided midfielder. Is he not better out on the left wing? He certainly looked at there tonight, that hybrid, you know, he combines the roles. It's not as if you remove him entirely from the midfield. He still does come back in there, and that little link-up, that combination with Joe Willock that was so key to Newcastle's success in the season of when they qualified for the Champions League. To see that there again tonight, wow, how reassuring was that? We thought that it perhaps gone forever. Anthony Gordon on the right, I would still prefer to see him on the left, and I think Gordon would himself, but I think that was probably one of his best performances from the right wing. Lloyd Kelly at left centre-back, that recovery, that pace that perhaps the two in the middle have been missing at times this season. So all these little experimental things, and this is before we get to Tonali, yeah, I thought they'd come off the night and have certainly given Eddie a lot to think about, and good things to think about too. Now, the merit stars, guys, and as I said, I'm not going to fudge them. I'm not going to throw loads of names in there. And I'm going to give you my three in ascending order. And the 1 star, well, that goes to Lloyd Kelly. And he had a shaky start. He was responsible for giving the ball away to Nkunku, which led to the Dewsbury Hall chance early on. There was another one later on as well, where he actually nipped in front of the man, and there was a big cheer went up, then a groan went up as he lost the ball. So he wasn't having, actually, the first 20, 25 minutes, I thought, you know, given the issues over his, what's looked like a lack of confidence at times with him this season, but he recovered from that. And I said there I wasn't necessarily nervy about Chelsea getting back into the game. In large part, that was thanks to Lloyd Kelly, and he made 2 absolutely huge blocks, one in the first half, one in the second half there. And that, for me, was, and this isn't, none of you guys will even debate this, that was by far and away his best for the club. And I want to put him in for that reason. I think if I was just breaking it down and analysing the 1 to 11 in terms of the players, perhaps there might be others who deserve to be in ahead of Kelly. But given that he's had that difficult start to his time here, and he had a difficult start of this match, to recover and put in that performance, and just to suggest that the nature of his pace at the back there, that recovery, that might just bring something different to the back four at a time when I'm beginning to suspect it might just need it. So Lloyd Kelly, he gets 1 star. 2 stars, well, that's Lewis Hall. And I just think, and I almost say this every week, that was his best yet for the club. He's getting better week on week, and that is why I want to record it. And in my merit marks for the Daily Mail there, I had, at half time, I think I had Hall as the star performer. Now, I know he went off midway through the second half. That might just deny him the full 3 stars. I honestly thought tonight, guys, he was brilliant. Now, it might have gone unnoticed. I don't know. Let me know what you think, given that there were so many competing performances out there. But he started the game well. There's a real confidence and calmness to him now. But there's also, crucially, my biggest criticism of him so far has been that at times he's looked like a little boy in a man's game, as if he perhaps needs to go back to under-21s football. Of late, he hasn't. He's really stepped up, and it was down just in front of us in the press box, that performance there. So I really got to see it at close quarters in the first half. I thought he was magnificent. I thought he was strong. And, I come back to that word, rather than him looking, and he's a player who's praised for his technical ability, but at times it's sort of kind of let him down. I think that's been because of a nervousness and a lack of confidence. Well, all of that is coming back to him now, and all of that is coming together. And he is actually starting to look like the answer to the left-back problem that has plagued Newcastle for so long now. So Lewis Hall, the 2 stars, and the 3, well, yeah, that goes to Sandro Tonali. And playing in the middle of a midfield 3, you've got to stick with it. He's got to stay there now. Now, what does that mean for Bruno Guimaraes? Well, bring him back in to the right. Put him back in that that number 8 role in which he looked so magnificent when he first joined the club. He was getting up, he was down, he was scoring goals. Who can forget the diving header at the Gallagher end against Leicester? I want to see that Bruno back again when he plays in the middle. I don't think he's been playing badly of late, but I don't think we see necessarily the very best of him. Tonali in that 6, even though he wasn't playing as deep as that, I thought he was brilliant tonight, and he almost seemed to, for the removal of Bruno from the team, he seemed to thrive and be inspired by the responsibility. There was a real look of, I'm the man tonight, I'm going to control this game, I'm not going to exist in the moments, and that's the phrase I've used for him of late, very good moments, but a midfielder, central midfielder, player of his class, in his calibre, he should be involved from minute 1 to minute 90. And the way he stays on beyond minute 65 and all the grumblings about it's a pre-arranged, predetermined substitution, well, no, you stay on the pitch by performing like you did tonight. Eddie Howe couldn't have taken him off on 65. It would have brought the place down, and justifiably so. I don't think the previous substitutions of Tonali necessarily were worthy of the little smatterings of criticism that they've got, because he hadn't produced that on the ball. Pass completion must be close to 100%, always shown for it. But more than that, it was the aggression, it was the intent, it was the desire, the want to hassle and harry opponents, and to break from that central. How many times did he break from that central position and put pressure on the opponents on the edge of Chelsea's box? I just thought he was brilliant, and in a really competitive field, and for what it says, for the encouragement it gives you about Tonali breaking from this little malaise that I think he's been in, some good, some bad, most of it just pretty much indifferent, to break from that tonight and give, for me, what was a man-of-the-match performance, the 3 stars, to suggest that there is, there's so much more to come we've talking about, to give us the biggest indication yet that is what it will look like. That is why he is my star man. Now, I'm probably going to have to quickly rattle through the near misses just to avoid any comments below the line where you're screaming, why didn't you put my man in? Well, yeah, let's go through it. Nick Pope made some big saves. Chelsea weren't without their chances. Emil Kraft, to be up against Mudryk in the pace of that, and Emil Kraft isn't renowned for his turn of foot. I thought he was brilliant tonight, and that little run he had in the second half when he marauded over halfway, just willing him to go all the way. Emil Kraft could have been in the 3, no problem at all. Fabian Schär, probably one of his sort of quieter nights nonetheless, did okay in the midfield. Sean Longstaff, on another night, he makes it in there as well. Joe Willock, already spoken about him. Alexander Isak, he takes his chance, having missed them in recent weeks. He went off with a little knock there. We don't think it's too serious. Eddie didn't seem too concerned downstairs. And we've spoken already as well about the impact of Joe Linton and Gordon. But coming off the bench, Will Osula, we've got to mention, he struck the post there. That would have been, I think that would have brought the house down there if he'd put that one in the bottom corner. That was the best he's looked so far by a distance as well, and probably coming into a team by that point that was playing with more confidence, a stadium that was up. I think that probably aided Osula, but we certainly saw there tonight why he can be a useful addition from the bench. But more than that, we saw why, as a collective, Newcastle can be the team we believe them to be, and the team we know them to be. Yes, it's only one game here tonight, and it was against Chelsea's understudies. We saw after the Manchester City game, didn't we? And they won a lot of praise and a lot of love, but didn't really kick on. So that's the first victory since. So yeah, guys, it's a good night for Newcastle. It's a night they needed. Water in the pitch there now, because back here on Saturday, another absolutely huge game against Arsenal. But doesn't the whole place and the whole mood just feel a little bit better for tonight? Just such a big win. I just cannot underestimate that, because I knew in my mind potentially where it was going without keeping themselves in this competition. That cup draw, as I said at the very top, that just all adds to it. So yeah, guys, a very, very good night. I'm sure you enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed the video too. Please leave your comments below the line. Debate that man of the match. Debate the team selection going forward. What has this made you think about how he does pick his team for Saturday against Arsenal? Do you leave Tonali in that middle there? What do you do with Bruno Guimaraes? So much to talk about. But for once in recent weeks, guys, I'd say all of this debate to come out of this game, it's positive. It's good. So thank you again for watching. I'll be back on Friday up at the training ground to see Eddie Howe before coming back here for that huge game, and another one where I think St James's will lift itself against Arsenal on Saturday. One last little scan, as we always do. Okay, good night, guys. Take care. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.